So for those who do not know me, my name is Ronnie. I am a donor egg mom in waiting. And what that just means is I was told by my doctor that my best chances of bringing a baby home was through donor egg. So everybody knows I have had a long journey. I am on transfer number 5. I just recently came through a loss, but we will still move forward. But today we have Sheena here as to come down and sit down and talk with us today. I appreciate her. Um, and so I want to start with, did you have, we can start with your journey of, did you have any known fertility issues, or you just was trying to have a child and then you started having some miscarriages?
That's pretty much what it was. Nothing known, just doing what people do, have sex, make babies. So no, nothing out of the ordinary. It just miscarriage, and I was like, okay, is it me? And no, nothing out the ordinary. Nothing I was perfect, so I thought.
Right. And so at the age of 34, you did get pregnant. You had some early losses. You want to walk
Mhm.
us through your feelings about that and what you were going through?
Sure. So with any miscarriage, most of the time you're like confused, lost, hurt, trying to understand what happened, why your body isn't working like everybody else's body. Do you do it again? Do you keep trying? Um, because a loss is a loss. And then as a woman, it's like, this is the one thing you got to do is get this baby here. Like, you got to just make it through. You got to just get this baby here. And I failed. That's how I felt. And so it was rough. An emotional battle. It's you battling with yourself. You trying to explain to people why, and you don't have a why. Nothing is wrong. You go to the OB, like, nothing is wrong. Your body just couldn't do it, and you have to wrap your brain around that. And then when you do try again and it happens again, you're like, okay, like, it's got to be me. I'm the problem,
Right.
or it's just not meant to be. And so you battle with that. And then it's like, okay, well, do you keep trying or do you just stop? Because that heartache is still a heartache. You've carried a human life in your body, and then it's just gone.
Now,
It's
at
tough.
that point, did you like go see the doctor to go see like if there was any, like, did they run any tests or anything like that?
No, we didn't run any tests. Just did the simple DNC, make sure everything was out, and I was good to go. I never had nothing. I'm 35, 35 years. I ain't never had nothing.
Right.
I do, my annuals, there's nothing there, no fibroids, no this, no that. There's nothing that would have said, okay, Sheena, you cannot carry this baby.
Right.
So my body just, I don't know. I don't know. It was
Transition to 35. You try
mm-hmm.
again,
Yes.
and
And
we are
we,
pregnant.
yes, we are excited. I'm feeling it. I'm like, okay, we got it. We got it. I'm telling my better half, okay, we're going to wait till we're in our second trimester. Let's just get all this excitement down and do what we need to do and go to our doctor's visits and things like that. And everything was going great until,
Until.
until.
And
You want me to
what
keep going?
first, yeah, what was your first scare that you had that made you
My
think
first
it?
scare, initially I'm a flight attendant. And so we were living in Savannah, and I would come home to Atlanta because I fly out of Atlanta. And I was at home, and I just started bleeding. Like, not like a little bleed, like, and so I rushed like any pregnant woman to the ER, and they were like, "Oh, you're probably gonna miscarry." So at that point, I just shut down. I said, okay, but they hooked me up to everything. The baby's heart was still beating. Everything was still where it needed to be. They said, we're going to send you home. I'm like, okay, no problem. Um, we go home, my best friend and I, Laterica, and stopped at Waffle House, got something to eat, and got in the house. I'm in the kitchen, and so within less than 12 hours, I'm back in the emergency room. And I'm telling them, it's just something's not right. They was like, sweetheart, this is probably just the beginning phases of a miscarriage. Just there's really nothing we could do. Just go home. Everything is still, the baby is still there. Everything that needs to be there is there. There's nothing showing us that the baby is about to um, expel. So I was like, okay. So we went back. The next day, I flew back to Savannah. And I said, okay, I got to go see my own OBGYN. It's just, just make sure everything's okay. So I go and everything. And they always say, you're carrying low, you're carrying low. And I'm like, okay, we're going to put you on bed rest. You don't need to do this. Don't lift nothing. No sex, that. And I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't do any vaginal ultrasounds. Everything had to be on my stomach because they said I was carrying low. So they never went in that way. So everything was like picture perfect. Baby was there. It was just that I thought we were carrying low. And fine. Went for another visit because I started throwing up. I was throwing up everything, like everything, water, everything. So I basically became dehydrated. And we went in and I told my doctor, and I was 35 at the time. So that day I had two doctor's visits. I had one with my OBGYN, and then I had one with the um,
MFN.
yeah. So I said, okay, well, whatever. I'm just 35. I'm not geriatric, but this is what y'all want to say. So here it is. And my OBGYN said, okay, when you leave there, you're going to have to go. We're going to admit you anyway because you are dehydrated, right? So, okay. So we go to the other appointment, and the doctor kept saying, have you had some of your uterus removed? And I'm like, sir, no. I don't know why you keep asking that. Reggie and I are looking at each other like, I think I would know. I said, unless somebody took out a piece of my uterus when I got my tonsils or my wisdom teeth pulled, I mean, no, like, no. So he kept saying, okay, all right. So I left there, checked in, because our doctor's office is in the hospital. I checked in, I was getting my fluids, and I thought I was ready to go. And mind you, that same day I heard my son's heartbeat. It was a boy, and I heard his heartbeat for the first time that same day. So there was a lot of excitement and chaos or whatever because this man saying stuff is missing, but all this was in the same day. So we go, we check in, they hook me up to everything. I'm on the mother baby floor. Got my fluids. I'm thinking, okay, the next day I'm gonna go home. And the doctor comes in there and says, hey, we need you to do a CT. And I said, what? I said, pregnant women don't, I'm not, no. And they were
Right.
like, well, we really need to see where the baby is. And I said, see where the baby is. But by this time, I'm like, okay, I mean, make it quick. I don't want to be, under all of that for so long. And they did what they needed to do. And Reggie had left to go to work. And after I was done, I called him. I said, okay, come get me. I'm ready to go home.
Right.
And apparently when he was walking in, he's like, there's a bunch of doctors out there like around the table. And I said, well, it ain't for me. I said, I'm packing my stuff up, putting my clothes on, and they all come in the room. All of them. And they say either you're gonna make it and the baby's not gonna make it, or the baby's gonna make it and you're not gonna make it, or neither one of you are gonna make it. And the room, it was just like silent because it was like, well, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just carrying low. I just came in here to get some hydration, like fluid. That's it. Like, what do you mean? And so they were like, well, this is very rare. It really doesn't happen, but your baby has implanted in your cervix. And so at that point, I knew, okay, well, what do we do? And I was so lost for words because that same day I heard my baby's heartbeat.
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, what is the plan? There was no plan. This doesn't happen. There was nothing for people to follow. There were no journals for them to go read from previous doctors dealing with this. When I say rare, I mean rare. So they said, well, we're going to start you on methotrexate tonight to terminate the pregnancy. We're going to move you from here to the cancer floor. And, we're going to take it day by day. So that night, two of the nurses from the cancer floor came downstairs and gave me methotrexate injection. That's probably the worst pain I have ever felt in my life. And I said, okay. So they transfer us up. Day 1 of methotrexate, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. That baby's heartbeat is still beating 127. Boom, boom, boom. They was like, Miss Norris, you know, this cannot go on. Like, this baby, this is not, you're either going to bleed out right here in this room, and we won't even have enough time to get you to the OR if you bleed out. So at that point, now I'm also at a Catholic hospital. So every time they have to do something that requires termination of the baby, they have to go before the board. So everything is like delayed a few days, waiting, getting approval, all kind of stuff. And so they were like, we're going to have to stop this baby's heartbeat. And to be honest with y'all, I was checked out. I checked out from the time they told me, either you ain't going to make it, baby's not going to make it, nobody's going to make it. I had already checked out, because now that's another loss. And then it's a loss, but then I don't even know if I'm going to be part of that loss.
Right.
So at that point, I said, well, how does that work? And most women are familiar with like amniocentesis. That's something they do to really like go in and pull tissue to see if your baby has any type of issues or defects, abnormalities.
Right.
And they say, well, we're going to do it similar to amniocentesis, but we, at the end of it, we put medicine that we puncture your stomach, then we puncture the baby, and we're going to the baby's heart. And then we inject it, and we wait for the baby's heart to stop. So at that point, I was killing my baby. Like, and I was going to have to endure that. Like, I was going to have to sit there and endure that. So initially they said, well, we're going to have to take you across the street to this other hospital because we can't do it here. And so I was supposed to take an ambulance across the street, do the procedure, and then come back. And I don't talk about this, but
And you can always take a break, and you can take your time.
it was like the doctor who performed it came in, and I'm like, oh, I didn't understand why he was there, because I'm getting dressed to get into an ambulance. And he said, no, you've already been through too much. He was like, I'm just going to do it here. So I'm like, okay, well, we must be going to the OR, because if you're going to stab a whole thing into my stomach, I got to be asleep. Like, what? Like, you're going to do this while I'm awake? And he said, yeah, we're just going to numb your stomach. We're going to give you a little cocktail to calm you down. And that's how we're going to do it. I was in my room, in the bed that's in the room. And then they wheel in the monitor for like the ultrasound. So now I'm laying in the bed. I have a monitor to this side of my face, and the doctor is on this side. And the doctor needs the monitor because now he has to be guided with this stick that he is about to stab me with, so he doesn't miss my baby's heart. So he says, I'm not a drinking man, but after this, I'm going to need a drink. And this is coming from the man that's supposed to perform this.
Right.
And then he tells myself and Reggie, it's probably best that you don't even look at this monitor. So Reggie is at the window, and I'm just trying to look up in the ceiling. So they inject. I'm thinking it's over. He's like, no, no, we have to leave it in because if this first injection doesn't work, we're gonna have to. I don't want to have to go back again. So we're gonna leave this in you until we know that the baby's heart has stopped. And of course, what did I do? What he said not to, and I looked over. And you know how you get like that one tear out of your eye? It was just like that one tear just streamed down my eye. And I sat there and I was like, wow. And at that point, he was like, baby is gone. Heartbeat, there's no more heartbeat. This pregnancy is terminated. I'm like, okay. That was December the 19th at 3:27 p.m. I'll never forget it. And I laid in the bed, and I just laid in the bed because there was nothing else you can do. You know how you feel defeated? I was like defeated. Like I sat there and I watched you end my child's life. Like I sat there and I watched you. And gathered myself as best as I could. Like cleared the room. Everybody left. So now it's a waiting game because at the end of the day, I could still hemorrhage out. The baby has to come out some kind of way.
Right.
And every day, are you bleeding? What's going on? Are you okay? Do you understand you can't leave because if you hemorrhage, you're not going to make it back. We can't let you go. Y'all, we're approaching Christmas now at this point. And I'm like, there's no way I can't do this. Like, I cannot physically be in here. I've already lost a child. I got to go. Like this, I can't. I was done. I was mute. I didn't have any energy. You know how you think everything I just had one job, and that was to carry a baby, and I fucked it up. And so they let me go home, but I had to come back. And they were like, well, we're gonna, the baby still hadn't expelled. Nothing happened. I'm in tremendous pain. I could barely walk. I'm nervous as hell because I don't know, if I bleed, what's going to happen. So I say we're going to do a DNC. We're going to go in and get this baby out. But I don't know if y'all are familiar, but when the baby's in so normally the baby's in your uterus, right? So your uterus, after you have a baby, it contracts back. So like it stops all the everything. Well, because of where it was, which was my cervix, it doesn't contract back. Once it's expanded, extended, that's it. Like there's no way to stop the blood.
Really, your cervix should be closed because that's what keeps the
Mm-hmm.
baby in. So your cervix it shouldn't even open because that's what happens to a lot of women who have what's called a shortening of their cervix is because that just gives away, and then they also have miscarriages that way. So your cervix is supposed to be closed and shut until you
My
give.
cervix was as big as my uterus.
Wow.
I was going into my second trimester because we had already said, for Christmas we're going to tell everybody we're having a baby. So we were trying to hold out. So our Christmas wasn't telling people we were having a baby. Our Christmas was telling people I may or may not make it.
Right.
That was the reality. I mean, there was no in between. I didn't know if I was coming or going. And they said, well, you can't have a normal DNC. We need the radiologist to come in, and we're going to have to clamp every artery that leads to your uterus. There's 6 of them there, 3 on each side. I'm like, okay. At this point, that's all I could say is okay. I don't have any words. I don't have words. I'm an educated woman, and I had no words.
Right.
I couldn't think of nothing to say. Other than, okay. And so I said, well, what do we do? Well, you're going to have to stay. That gentleman doesn't get there until the next day. So you'll come back in and be in and out, same day. This is what they say, same day. Okay, okay. I felt some type of way because even like the night before we were going to the hospital, I was just like, Reggie, I just need you to just hold me. Like, I just need to be held. I just don't feel, I just didn't feel, it was so intense for me that I just didn't, nothing. And he kept saying, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. And I'm like, okay. Because, you signing paperwork that say you may or may not make it. Yeah, so I'm just signing away and I'm just signing away. And they get ready to take me back to the radiologist to do whatever he needs to do. And I'm like, sir, are you going to put me to sleep when you go in here and do all this? Oh, no, we can't do that. There's no way we can give you double anesthesia. We're just going to numb you up a little bit. Same stupid ass concept that they did up at the top. I said, okay. They went in, numbed me up, gave me some, I don't even know, like it's like a cocktail. So you're here, but you're not.
Right.
And did what they needed to do, rolled me out and said, okay, we're getting ready to go into OR to do your DNC. You be out 45 minutes, hour tops. Well, I couldn't tell you how long I was in there. What I do know is that while I was in there, I had to have blood transfusions because I bled out. I do know that they performed the DNC and I kept my reproductive organs. And however long it took, I had finally made it into recovery. And apparently they must have went out to Reggie and said, hey, you know what? In about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know what they said to Reggie because he's so clocked out. And so, but you can come back there and she'll be ready to go. I'm laying in the bed in recovery. Now, what they did, I'll backtrack. So after they did the DNC, because of where the baby was, they put a balloon inside my cervix, which was supposed to stay there until I kind of like sort of healed enough to clot the blood and do everything that it needed to do. However, when I got into recovery, they went to take my tubes out. And when they took my tubes out, I threw up. And when I threw up, the balloon came out. I immediately bled. And I told the nurse, I said, ma'am, I think I'm bleeding. And honestly, y'all, that's the last thing I remember. So apparently I was rushed back into the OR, emergency surgery. And I had just came out. I don't even know how many hours I was in there. But I do know, Reggie said, we came in the day, and by the time they told me it was okay at first, it was dark outside. He said everybody was leaving the waiting room, and he couldn't understand why he was still there. So when I'm rushed back to the operating room, the surgeons came out to him and told him, you need to call whoever you need to call. We're going to do what we can, but you need to call who you need to call.
Oh, wow.
And I got back there, and I lost everything. I lost my cervix. I lost my uterus. I lost an ovary. I lost a fallopian tube. And I would have lost another ovary and a fallopian tube, but I had already lost so much blood. I had 8 blood transfusions. So basically, I lost every ounce of blood in my body. And they said, we were running out of time, so we had to close you back up. So they closed me back up. I'm in ICU. I have no idea what's going on, y'all. I don't even know. I don't know nothing. I'm thinking I had a DNC, and I don't know where I'm at.
Right.
When I woke up, I had a tube. I was on a breathing machine. The respiratory people were in there trying to say, well, you don't have no veins we can use. We need to find an artery so we can do your oxygen. I'm telling these people I cannot breathe. Like I'm telling y'all. But you know, when you're in ICU and you start, they lock your hands down. So now my hands are locked down. The room is like 500 degrees. Apparently, my body temperature was so low that they had to warm my body back up. So that's why my room was hot. When they realized that I wasn't going to stop complaining about not being able to breathe with this tube in my throat, they went and got um, a X-ray tech that came to the room. When they did the X-ray, because they rushed me back so quickly that second time, the tube was too far down and it was blocking off my airway. So in my head, in that bed, I'm like, I done made it this far. Now, mind you, I think I got a DNC. And I'm gonna die because I can't breathe out this tube that's supposed to help me breathe. So when they realize that, and I see you when they take your tubes out, all medical got to come in the room because they don't know if you're gonna be able to breathe on your own or not. If you're gonna code, not code. So they go to take my tubes out, and everybody's in the room. God's grace. They take the tubes out. I start coughing, throw up comes up, all that good stuff, and I'm put on and immediately I have an oxygen mask. A few days later, I'm still in pain, like pain. And I'm asking them, y'all can't control the pain from a DNC? And my nurse said, you don't know what happened? No, I don't. She goes, well, let me get the doctor. And so when the doctor comes in, she's like, Sheena. I'm like, what? Now, the last thing she told me when she brought me out of recovery was, we saved your reproductive. Okay?
Right.
Now she's telling me, it's gone. And I looked at her because we had these talks prior to, because mind you, when I found out that neither one of us may or may not have made it, I had every specialist you could think of come into that room. I had met my fertility doctor the second day I was in the hospital because he came to tell me what my options may or may not be.
Right.
And so I looked at her and I said, so you mean I almost died? Because I told her, don't take nothing unless you need to save my life.
Right.
And she said, yeah. She said, I said, well, what happened in there? She said it was an organized disaster. And she said, I only say organized because you lived. And she said, I can't even explain it. She's like, I don't even know I don't know. She said, but you're here and we got to figure out how to move forward. And I just laid in that bed defeated, because motherhood is something that I have always dreamed of. And in that moment, it was stripped from me. Um, yes, in that moment, everything was stripped of me, and I had nothing to say. I had no reason to live. I was asking in that bed, why you just, God, I was on the table. You could have took me. I mean, we all could have went home to glory. I have no reason to be here. Like, I have done everything that I have needed to do. I have hit all of my accomplishments. I have hit all my milestones. And the one thing that I had always wanted to do, now you're telling me I can't even, like, I can't. So it left me numb, silent. And we're approaching New Year's Eve, and I'm in ICU. What is there to celebrate? A new year? Okay.
Right.
And I don't know if any of y'all have been in ICU, but ICU ain't the place to be. I'm talking about people are dying. And I'm in ICU with these people that are dying. You hear families coming in wailing. Every time there was a code, my nurses from upstairs would run downstairs to make sure it wasn't me. They would peep into my door and say, okay, you're still here. Okay, you need to come on up. You need to figure out how to get upstairs now. I mean, coding. And that's all you hear. That's all you hear. So I begged and I begged and I begged and I begged. And my doctor, I had two surgeons that performed my surgery. They're both named Sarah. And she was like, give her what she wants. Whatever she wants, just give it to her. I don't care what it is. If she just figure it out. And New Year's Eve, they moved me to a regular room. But I was, of course, on watch. Moved me to a regular room so that I could at least bring it in with my mom, my dad, Reggie. Like, if I was in ICU, nobody can come in there. I'm already fucked up, excuse my French. I'm mentally gone. And then having to say Happy New Year, ain't nothing happy about this. I'm not happy. I'm so checked out. I'm so hurt. I'm devastated. I don't even want to be here. Why am I here? You had ample time to say, this is it. Why? So, yeah. So, at that moment, I lost everything. Everything. My one pregnancy that I thought, oh my God, to be excited for, and I lost everything. Yeah. Everything.
So at this moment, you basically realize if you want to be a mother, that you definitely have to explore other options because right now you are unable to carry.
Right. And in in our community, it's taboo. There is no other way. So for me at the time, it was just like, what do you do? Adopt? What do you do? Like, you're a black woman and you can't carry a baby? I mean, around that time, that's what it was. Like, that's what it was. So yeah, honestly, I wasn't thinking at that moment. I mean, even years later, I really just wanted to be with my child in heaven. And however I had to get there, I was going to figure it out. I had, they send you home with everything. I had everything. I could, but in that moment, I I would cry every day. And it's not like a cry. It's like a wail. It's like so deep that I I don't, women that have gone through stuff like this, you get it. It's a cry you can't even stop. You can't control it. It just
Right.
happens. It just happens. You get beside yourself, and it's like I've cried so much that I tried. Like like Jamie say, you laugh through the pain.
Right.
So you laugh and you find ways, and I'll be like, okay, God, you got me here for a reason, but I don't know the reason. You left me with an ovary, but why? What the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
And then, of course, you had Dr. Bloom. That was my fertility doctor. Of course, I met with him, but ain't no black women going in and out of that office. So
No.
here I am, like, oh my God. And most women, I don't know about y'all's fertility doctors, but they don't have no bedside manners. It's so matter of fact. It's like, you're 35, you need to do it now. And I'm in the headspace where, no, I hear what you're saying. But if these eggs ain't cracking at 40 or whenever I get ready, then so be it. Therapy, I did everything. But yeah, at that point, I wasn't thinking that, but I knew that was, yes, my only option was figure something else out. And that yeah, figure something else out. And yeah, and it took me 4 years to figure something else out mentally.
So, for those of you who are joining us, we have Sheena here today on the panel. She's walking us through her very traumatic birth. Um, and we can't even call it a birth because it was just a surgery. Her son was growing in her cervix, which means that there was no room for her son to grow. And because of that, she had to terminate the pregnancy. Um, and I think it's important to talk about these things because just because laws are changing, and people are wanting to put things in place, um, because technically your son was alive.
Hmm.
And now, if certain laws are in place,
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it. I'd have been dead, y'all. And I say that every day. I say, oh my God, if this would have happened to me after these laws have passed, I
right,
physically would not be here. Like nobody would have helped me. But I say that to say, because when it did happen, that law went into place and I went back to my doctor, my surgeon, and she said, Sheena, she said, everything I did then, I would have done it now.
right,
And she said, if that meant that I would have had to go before a board, that would have been fine. She said, but I took an oath. And
right,
she said, I plan to go by that oath for the rest of my life. So I knew in that moment, God had given me who I needed
right,
to do what needed to be done because, of course, He saw this before, well, probably way before me. But and it was so weird because my OBGYN, I was contemplating whether or not I should have my OBGYN in Atlanta or if I should have had my OBGYN in Savannah. But Reggie had a job in Savannah, and I'm like, no, everybody needs to be a part of these visits. I said, I fly for free. It's not a big deal.
right,
And let me tell you, she wasn't no recommendation. She was a straight Google. And I said, okay. And I said, well, can anybody see me? I need to be seen like right now. And she goes, there's a new OBGYN to the practice. So I'm one of her first few patients. And then I'm her patient with such a traumatic experience. I see her, I don't have to go to the OBGYN because I don't have anything left in me. But I go to her and we just sit and chill. She
yeah,
sits with Nori. We talk it, chop it up. I mean, like, she is forever a part of my life.
right.
Like forever apart. It's because of her that I am alive. And it's because of her being humble enough that she couldn't do it by herself and got another surgeon because she knew that time was of the essence, that
Right.
they both were working on me. So it's like, it's it's a lot. And then you have to process that and then wrap your head around trying to be a mom, like trying to figure out your way, navigate your way through motherhood. IVF was probably the toughest decision I've ever made in my life, ever.
So you said it took you 4 years
Uh
to
huh.
ultimately, and take your time. We need to slow down now. Take your time, breathe.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
4 years, your sister has offered to be your surrogate.
Yeah, my sister actually offered when I got in the hospital, and I was doing my vacation stay before shit went south, and she was like, "Whatever y'all need to do, just save my sister. We'll figure out this baby stuff later." I'm like, "No, no, no, mm-mm. Nope, nope, not gonna do it. Nope, I can't. My sister, my sister has my niece, and I'm like, the only pregnancy I knew was this fucked up one that I had, and I was like, God forbid something like this happened to my sister. So in my head, I don't have a beautiful birthing story. So in my head, I'm like, no, my sister can't do this. Are you crazy? No, I'm not gonna be able to do it. Reggie had already did what he needed to do. it, it was just sitting there. And every year I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Second year passed, third year passed. I'm not ready. And then I'm like, I'm still holding on to the baby that didn't make it. So in that same breath, I'm like, okay, God, you got to put me in a position where I don't put this weight on this, whatever this blessing is that you're going to give me, because I was going to hold my child down with all that heaviness. So no, year one, no, year two, no, year three, no. And then year four, I'm bumping into like 38, 39. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And my sister's like, Sheena, I'm getting, just saying, I got my own timeline. I'm not having no more babies. Now this is it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I prepare myself for IVF and I go in, but you know how you want to control something
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know, if you control it, then you can see the bad before the bad gets to you. And so I controlled everything about that, about my first IVF cycle, everything. I mean, everything was on. I mean, if I could have been the doctor, I would have been him. And did everything we needed to do, did all the transfers. I ended up with some embryos, and we transferred it to my sister, and it didn't work, failed.
And how old was your sister at the time?
Oh, I don't even know. What am I? I'm about to be 43. So if I was 39, 38, she had been like, I want to say 34, 32, 33, somewhere around there.
Okay. With surrogacy, there's a few requirements. Mostly is
Mm-hmm.
that she needs to have carried before, not
Mm-hmm.
have complications, make sure her BMI is in a healthy range. But there are some older women who can be surrogates
Mm-hmm.
as long as they pass like the certain criteria that's needed. Most importantly, they just need to make sure that they've carried before with no complications. Because they can have a C-section, but it just hasn't can't be like complicated, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so it failed. So at that point, I was done all over again. I was done. I said, okay, okay, God, it's not meant. This ain't meant to be. IVF, it takes a toll on you mentally, physically. I'm giving myself shots daily, and I'm like, you giving yourself shots to have a baby. Like, make this make sense. It's expensive. It's overwhelming. It's intense. And then to go through all that and nothing. Oh, I was shook. I was shook. I was done. I was like, I need another break. I finally got myself back together. I did some praying. I got more involved in church. And I said, okay, you're gonna have to do things different. Like you're gonna have to rock this differently because I knew in my head 2 rounds was it for me.
Right.
And I'm ready, I'm amped up. And then right before everything goes to where it needs to be, my sister, who had been waiting to get in PharmD school, got her acceptance letter in July. So now I'm like, oh no, shut it down. We're not doing no IVF. My sister finally got what she wanted. This is what we're gonna do. No questions asked. Don't worry about it. God, I got a niece, and that niece is my child, and I'm just her Monty. That's it right there. And my sister was like, no. So we're gonna figure this out. And I said, how are we gonna figure this out? You got class, you got study sessions, you got tests. You on a the path that she's on is like it doubles up her years so she can finish earlier. And I'm like, how are you gonna have time? Like none of this makes sense. Like none of it makes sense. And I'm already stressed out. I haven't even started my shots yet. And she says, no, we're going to do this. And I said, okay, okay. She said, you prayed about it. We're going to go for it. I said, okay. I said, okay. So in September, we started. I did my part. She did her part. I did my part. She did her part. By the time we were finished, I had 3 embryos. And you're supposed to wait to get to blastocyst and all this other extravagant stuff. But mind you, my sister is in Farm B school. So our days, some things didn't match up. And Dr. Bloom was always like, Sheena and Sade, you guys are, I don't know what this is going to do. I don't know. The numbers, the dates, I don't know. And I prayed. I just said, God, whatever. He called me. He said, we got 3. At that point, I was really upset with God because I said, God, I told you, I don't want nobody choosing which embryos go in. Like, I don't want no man's hand on this. Like, no man's hand. Like, this is bigger than me. There's people praying. I mean, people are fasting. Like, I don't need not my hand, not my sister's hands, not really nobody's hands. And he said, well, we're going to just have to figure it out because, your sister got to come in here a day early because she got this test on Monday. So I don't even know what phase these embryos are going to be in. I said, okay. I said, we don't have no other option. So we cannot wait until Monday to do this transfer at all. Okay. And so we go in, everybody drives in on Sunday. We go in. They take my sister to the back. They do the transfer. I'm sitting there waiting, crying, praying, crying, waiting, crying, praying, crying. And the doctor says, okay, I need to talk to you and Reggie. I'm like, okay. So we go back there, and this man says, Sheena, we only had 2. Oh, that was it for me. I cried. I was in heaven. I said, thank you, Jesus. You heard me. The man didn't have to choose which embryos he was going to put in there. You only got 2. 2 it is. If you don't see fit for something to happen, then so be it. We said we were going to watch church service. So my sister and them listened to it on the way home, and then I listened to it at the house. And the sermon that day was, it's already done. It's already done. And in that moment, I knew God had did it. And I said, that was my confirmation. And I called my sister and my mom on the phone. And I said, did y'all hear what Pastor said? And she said, yes. I said, oh my God. I said, okay. I said, calm down. So you got to wait these 14 days.
Yes.
But in my heart, it's already done.
Already done.
And I put my faith on that. And I said, okay. I said, whatever it is, it's already done. Everybody went home. Everybody did what they needed to do. And my sister, apparently she couldn't wait 14 days. And she took a pregnancy test. She didn't tell me until afterwards. And it told her she was pregnant. But I remember her calling me and saying, I just know my body. And I'm like, girl, I don't have the energy for this. I was like, my nerves are already bad. We just need to wait until you take this blood work and do what you need to do. And we can figure out what's going on. Sure enough, she went and did her blood work, called me on through with the doctor. My sister was pregnant. I said, okay, we having a baby.
Yeah, baby.
I said, we having a baby. But when I tell you, it was the hardest 9 months of my life because I feel like I don't know how different it is when you're using a surrogate that's not attached to you versus it being your sister. And you're so worried that what happened to you would happen to her. And then you have to pray for her and you have to pray. And every day was so intense and so hard for me because I didn't know what was going to happen. My sister was sick as a dog. She was going to school. She said, Sheena, I got this. I got this. We're going to be okay. Everything's fine. I'm like, girl, you're in the emergency room. What do you mean you're going to be okay? She said, Mommy's going to take me. And then, you know, you got to think about it from a mother's perspective. Both of her children are now having babies. And so she's like ping pong because she's, you know, she's got to worry about this daughter, and then she's got to worry about the mental stability of another daughter, and then a granddaughter coming into the world. So it was rough. I mean, it was rough. It was rough. People say, "Are you gonna do it again?" Hell no. Mm-mm. I said
Not even
no,
close, not even a little bit.
no, not even. I am one and done. I am thankful and grateful. I have a beautiful baby girl. And I tell everybody that's the world's baby. I said, so many people prayed for her. I said, that girl don't even know how blessed she is right now. I said, I couldn't even tell you how she got here because I left it all in God's hands at that point. Like there was nothing that I could do. Like there was nothing that I could do physically. I mean, y'all, it was time. I went to my doctor and I said, I want to be a part of um, a trial where they give you put a uterus in you so I can carry a baby. And my doctor said, hell no. She said, I don't even know where I put the stuff inside of you back. Like I couldn't even tell you where
Right.
what is what, where is what. I know we threw everything back in there and closed you up as fast as we could because we was running out of time. And she said, to have somebody open you up again, I don't know if you would even make it.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know where your scar tissue is. You don't know where your scar tissue is. She said, I don't know. We don't know what's going on inside there. You don't have anything. So all whatever it is probably filled up with scar tissue.
Right.
Like you just don't know. IVF for me was the hardest thing. I don't have a cervix or a uterus. So you talking about the one ovary that I had with all these damn eggs. If I felt like a bowling ball, it was like, no, no, I can't do it again. I can't do it again. And I said, you know, I, God gave me what I prayed for, and so I need to be done with it. But it still takes a toll on me because, you know, I have a scar. So I see that daily. Um, and, you know, I don't know what it's like to have a baby. Um, so there's certain things, certain stories, certain women's stories that I can't necessarily relate to. But what I do know is my daughter is my heartbeat.
So a couple of questions that were asked was someone asked, which I can answer that, is
Mm-hmm.
uh who talked to you about IVF? And I'm sure when she was in the hospital initially,
Mm-hmm.
they told her IVF was
Yeah,
probably
the
be an option.
Dr. Bloom came in the next day from his office because Dr. Jarrell, which was the OBGYN, was like, you need to know all your options because I can't tell you how this is going to go.
Right.
So he came in and he said, one, you can do hysterectomy. Uh, you can, there's IVF. He was like, even if everything is saved, he still wanted me to do IVF because he didn't want what happened now to happen again.
Right.
So either way it went, I would have had to do IVF, but I'd have been able to carry the baby
Right.
if it went the way I had intended it to go. But he came to my room bedside the second day, and he was like, I'm across the hall, and I didn't look nowhere else. I just said, you already know my story. You already know what's happening. I mean, those doctors were getting together every day to figure out what my next option was.
The other question was Reggie's emotions. Me and you talked before
Uh-huh.
to kind of talk about your relationship with him, you both going through it.
Well,
Um,
he was silent.
right,
He was he was silent. I guess he was being a man. I really don't know. I didn't find out until like recently that that was what he considered the worst day of his life.
right,
Um, so it was hard. Like IVF, I had to do my own shots. You know, his thing was he didn't want to connect and then connect to something that may or may not make it. So for him, the loss was like, no, I don't until I see this baby breathing and out and I know everything is okay, then I'll snap in. And he did. He did. Because during the birth, I passed out. It was almost like when my sister gave birth, it was like so much had been taken off of my plate. And so it was like it was almost like you light switch, click. And I'm like, oh, who is this?
right.
Because he's just like, no, I can't do it. I can't get my emotions. I can't. It's just too much. And he made it very clear before the IVF process, and I had to process that because I knew, okay, you're gonna have to, Sheena, you're gonna have to do this by yourself until he can clock in. And but once he clocked in, that's
A
it.
lot of us do it by ourselves, so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's what it is.
yeah. But it was a lot. It was like a lot. Like you got to give your own trigger shot. I'm sitting up here like I don't know nothing about this. I'm going to, one of my girlfriends that's a nurse is saying you need to come to the house because I need you to give me this shot.
Right,
So it was just like, or I'll come over there to you. And the first one I did go over there, and she did it, and then the last one we were on FaceTime, and I was like, okay, I got it. We got to be, time is of the essence. I ain't got time to drive, and it was just, yeah, it was a lot for him. I mean, that would be something he would have to speak on, but he was definitely checked out. He was, according to my family and his brothers that were there, he was checked out from the time that he waited too long in the waiting room.
right,
So, and you have to, and I tell everybody, my story is completely different from his, my family's, my friends. You know, for them it was like, okay, she's alive, okay, okay, but this has been a thing. So everybody honestly was silent, from my mom to my dad to my sister to my cousins, like they were in prayer mode. But when I came through, I'm like, yo, are we gonna party? Like what is wrong with y'all? I'm alive. Y'all got to figure out something. But it didn't register to me that everybody had a different story from this one incident. So it kind of caught me off guard because I'm like, don't nobody wanna. I'm like, maybe I'm missing it. But my mom was like, Sheena, I cried a cry that no mother wants to cry. She said, I told Reggie to tell those doctors, do whatever you need to do to save my child.
right,
Because my mother was in Stone Mountain, because this is just supposed to be a simple day surgery.
right,
And so my dad is down in the basement doing drinking to calm his nerves. And so it was my sister just driving around because she said, mom's calling me, and every time she called me, I got to pull over because I don't know what type of news I was going to get.
right.
So it was intense. When my best friends came to see me after I got out the hospital, they didn't say a word. We all looked at each other and just
Right.
like they just cried, like they just cried. And so it was like, it was intense. It was intense. And every time I look at my daughter, sometimes I blink out because it's like, girl, you're here, and I don't even know how. Like I question, you still question yourself. You still say, well, the what ifs, or your brother would be, 5 years old. So you still have those moments, and then you think like God made you from the little that you had. Like I had one ovary. I'm knocking on 40. My doctor is telling me, girl, your eggs, if you think you can have a baby, you're going to have to do a live transfer because you can't freeze these things and then try to put them in.
Right, due to age, probably they're just wanting you. So what she did, you guys, was called a fresh transfer, meaning
Mm-hmm.
she sent her eggs, they did the retrieval, and they pretty much, instead of what I have is frozen embryo, so I can go back anytime. They grew them out and they stuck them back into her sister
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted, you know, trying to give her the best chance of bringing baby home, which again,
Mm-hmm.
why she was allowed to do multiples, they're not tested. And
Mm-hmm.
then her age also takes into place. So the likelihood of all three or two sticking are going to be not
Slim.
is yeah going to be slim. So that is the reason why she was able to do it. Someone asked in the chat, because your sister offered, it took you 4 years. What was Reggie's reaction about how this? Because I know we talked about this too. How this was gonna work? Her being the surrogate and what and how his role was gonna play with your sister being the surrogate.
Oh, I mean, him and my sister, they got a dope relationship. So there's conversations that those two have that I am not privy to, because he told me I can talk to your sister real easy, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But like as far as like doctor's visits, no, Reggie didn't go. I went to pretty much all the doctor's visits. Reggie didn't want to go until he could see like the baby, like head, hands, fingers, nose. So he did that visit,
But it
because I
wasn't.
was,
I guess what
hmm?
I'm asking was, it wasn't awkward to him. The
No,
whole like
well,
sperm, like that wasn't. Did he ask like, so how does this work as
mm-mm.
far as his DNA, whose DNA? He didn't ask those questions.
No, because it was just him and I. It's my egg, his sperm, so
Mhm.
it's 100% Sheena and Reggie. It was just, Sade had to. She was the vessel. She hates for
Right.
to say that, but and I hate to say that, but she was the vessel that brought her niece into the world. So we were all no, it never, no, he never
No
felt no
weird
type of way.
no
Mm-mm.
weird conversations. Everybody was just you the only one who wasn't on board.
Yes, yes. Yes, I was the only one. I was like, my sister is not doing this. I'm not going to go through this. I don't know what's going to happen. We put this baby in her, and then God forbid. I'm like, nope, because then I said, then and then you guys got to remember, even though it's my sister that carried all the legal everything that you're supposed to fill out, it had to be filled out to a T. Like if something happened, like so you have to understand that while I'm trying to prepare for IVF, I'm also preparing legal documents that say if something happens to my sister, if this my sister was like no C-section, y'all, my baby in the last week flipped around and was breached. And so by this point, I am losing my mind because my sister in these legal documents is like, I'm not, nobody's gonna, not doing it. No C-section, no this, no that. And I said, okay, God. And it was crazy because we went in because she kept getting high blood pressure towards the end of the pregnancy. And she kept going in and out and having to be admitted. Well, she didn't want to be admitted, but I forced her to be admitted. And when we went in that time, the doctor that was working on call, which was um, a part of the group, the women's group that we were with, said nobody else in my group is going to do this. So we need to we need to figure out how to schedule this so that I'm here so that I could do it. So basically, we went in and the doctor turned my daughter around. There was enough fluid to where they could manipulate her and turn her around so that she wasn't breached anymore. And so they turned her around and then wrapped my sister up like a mummy. Now, mind you, when they did this, my sister had a bolus, and the bolus had medicine in there that was supposed to trigger, because they had to give her the epidural when they turned the baby around. So my sister had an epidural for over 24 hours. And they did it once, and then they came back around and did it again, and then she bottomed out. So they had to bring her back in the middle of all of that. They brought her back, thank you, Jesus, and wrapped her up. And my sister was wrapped up like a mummy until she went into labor. So by God's grace, once again, there was no C-section, because that doctor, who wasn't our primary, we weren't even seeing this lady, but she was in the practice, she said, nobody will do this. I'm telling y'all right now, if you come in and this baby is breached like this, you're going to get a C-section. So we need to figure out a plan for you to come in here while I'm here so that I can do this. But the caveat was, if she doesn't turn, then we do go into an emergency C-section.
And that's what I was. Someone asked, like it had to be by the dotted line. Now, again, this is medical stuff, so they're gonna try to accommodate you as best as you can. But ultimately, their job is to save not only her
And
sister,
only you.
but baby. So if they had to do a C-section,
They was gonna do it.
she's gonna
Yeah.
suck it up.
Yeah,
Get that C-section.
we probably would have been fighting for a little while, but Nori would have been our saving grace.
Right. You got to suck it up, girl. So we gonna have to do it, because again, high blood pressure is a signal of preeclampsia.
Eclampsia.
So we gotta move pretty fast here. But thankfully, I love your story, because by the grace of God, you had two situations where you had, and I think this needs to be expressed, that especially talking about Black women and the mortality rate, that you had two doctors in your story that were pro making sure that not only you were safe, but your sister was safe, and then your daughter was safe as well. So, we hear in the news all of these things about, them not looking out for us, but I like to highlight these stories because everyone is not always against us. Now, are there some that are, but we still have doctors out there who want to make sure that not only we make it to the other side, but our children make it to the other side as well. So she is here, y'all. I know it's been a long journey, but Nori is here, okay?
She is
made
18 months talking and moving, and I mean, just the reason why I breathe every day. Like, it's a breath of fresh air. I am enjoying every ounce of motherhood and what comes with it. It's a journey worth waiting for. My friend told me the other day, it's like, life can be hard.
Right.
And she said, you have to pray that the hard doesn't make you hard, but that you remain soft.
Wow.
And so I was like, you know what? You're right. Because I was very hard. And then it was like Nori came, and it was like, okay, it really brought back, like, okay, you need to calm yourself down. And so she softened me. She softened me back to who I have always been. It's like I lost who I was in the midst of all of that. And so it may have came off wrong to other people, or other people might have felt some type of way. But when you're going through stuff like that, I don't have time to talk to you. I don't have time to tell you what I'm going through. I don't have time to tell you when I'm going to try to have a baby. I don't have to. Y'all worried about a uterus I don't even have.
Right.
But I can't, that's when you start your conversation, but you don't even know, my story. When are you going to try again? Lady, listen, I don't have nothing to use to try.
Wow.
So it was like, yeah, that girl, I mean, that is my whole heart. People already know, don't play with me about her. Don't play with me about her. Like, that's hands down. She can have whatever she's gonna be, a spoiled only child, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
So walk me through this, because your sister carried her,
Mhm.
DNA, you two are related anyway, but do you
Mhm.
see some of your sister in
Oh, her
Nori?
attitude. Oh my God. I'm like, I tell my sister all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, because me and my sister, when she was pregnant, oh, we would be at it. My sister's like, this is my body, and I am not going into this hospital. I say, you are going into this hospital, whether you like it or not. So my Nori is very like matter of fact. She wants to do everything on her own, and that's my sister. It's like, no, don't give me my food. I can get my own food. Girl, you're 10 months. You don't even know how to use a spoon for real. So it's like, but she's very matter of fact. She'll come up to you and be like, and I'm like, okay, okay. So she's very much of a free spirit. So is my sister.
Okay.
So it's like it's crazy. And then she also I named her middle name is my sister's name. So I'm like, oh, I did it to myself. That's how I that's what I say. I chop it up. But yeah, there is some things that I see that I'm like, oh my God, my sister done rubbed off on her like bad.
It's
But
called
then my niece,
epigenetics.
yeah.
It's called epigenetics. So again, it's not your sister. Well, it's part DNA, but with
Right.
this because they are related. But her genes are expressed on her because she carried
Mm-hmm.
her, she nurtured her, and so that's what a lot of us donor egg moms lean on is that
Yeah.
epigenetics that our child will be some of the things that we grew and they would express.
Okay.
But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you don't care because I know we talked about you just grateful for your sister and it probably is a God's wink of seeing the gift that your
Mm-hmm.
sister gave you and seeing Nori have
Yes.
some of her similarities.
And it's also you have to understand like the dynamics of it because some days my sister will call and be like, okay, I'm going through a little withdrawal because you have to remember that she did carry her. You know what I mean? So I'll be like, okay, what do you need? You need me to drop her off for a few days? And she's like, yeah, I just need to get my little fix. And I'm like, okay, so like they do whatever they do. That's their auntie niece time, but they definitely have a bond that's already been there. You know what I mean? Like they don't fool about with each other when they see each other. That's the only person Nori will let comb her hair. Like it's crazy. There's certain things that I'd be like, okay, whatever. I'm not doing this with y'all. But yeah, she has her moments, especially like after birth. I was adamant about because they say with surrogacy you can go into separate rooms. You have a room, your surrogate house. I said no, everybody's going to be together.
Good.
And so we were all together. Me, her, Reggie, the baby. We was all in the room. And then our hospital, they don't have a nursery because they want you to now. So we was taking turns, but I think I slept more than the both of them because I was like, no, I'm good. I got to take her home. Like,
Right.
so I slept. I'm like, the baby's coming, they giving shots. And Reggie's like, she's going to think that I'm the bad parent. I said, whatever. And I go back to bed or whatever. But it's certain things that I make sure because I don't want my sister to feel like a disconnect because they're so tightly connected.
And I love that you're not intimidated about that bond because a lot of people
Mm-mm.
would see that as like maybe a trigger or thinking that Nori would think, well, that's her mom, those kind of
Mm-hmm.
feelings that can be crossed, especially when you have a relative. So we had a girl here, her egg donor is her cousin.
Okay.
And, and they have a close knit kind of a thing too, but her cousin honors that, you know, that is her mom. She used her egg, but that's her
Okay. Her
mom,
mom. Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of opposite. She carried, but Nori knows that you're her mom,
Mm-hmm.
and we shouldn't, it doesn't have to be a either or situation.
Right.
She has enough love to love everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and that only makes her an awesome kid. Like,
Yeah.
that just only makes her
Mm-hmm.
awesome. That you guys all there's it's not nothing weird. And I know like your sister isn't here, but did she go through any like was she able to let go giving birth and knowing that she was giving did she prepare herself for not being to take care of the baby
Oh
situation?
yes,
She
yes.
did.
She was. We kept fighting and arguing because she talking about something. I'm gonna hold the baby as soon as the baby come out. I'm like, no, you not. You know what I mean? Like, that's not gonna happen. But truth be told, she held the baby first because I passed out.
Oh wow.
I passed out, and she was like, and then Nori, when she came out, Nori wasn't crying, like nothing. So she actually was the one that had to tap Nori. So I think that because the doctor did it, nothing, and then when Sade did it, she immediately started crying. So I don't know if that was that connection, but she was like talking to her and patted her butt. But no, we were all no. She oh yeah the only now my niece is we working on her because she think that's her baby. So so we just let her go with it because for her it's she understands what took place, but I also got to remember she's 9, 10, and her mom is pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, but
Right.
she knew. My niece knew from the beginning because even when I was admitted to the hospital, in order for me to see her, I had to. Nobody was allowed on the cancer floor. So I had them put me in a wheelchair and take me down to my niece so that my niece knew I was okay and what was going on and stuff like that. So my niece, we have never, and I'm not going to be that parent either. Like Nori's going to, whatever Nori wants to know, Nori's going to know. Nori's probably going to know it before she even wants to know it because it's in her room. There's visuals there.
Right.
Because I don't ever, I want her to know that mommy and daddy needed a little bit of help. We
Right.
made you, but we needed help for you to grow,
Right.
and mommy couldn't grow you. So that like that's the things that I don't want to have that talk with her when she's 10, 11, 12, because at that point I don't know, I don't know. So it's a very open concept, and the last thing I want is somebody to tell her, well, your mama didn't carry you. No, she gonna know.
Right. And most textbooks, most doctors will tell you, a lot of people keep those type of things a secret, but
Mm-hmm.
they do tell you when you're starting early as what you're doing, you're just making the conversation comfortable for you.
Comfortable.
So
Mm-hmm.
she's not 12, 13, and now you're stumbling and looking like, and
Right.
and then they're teenagery looking like, why are you
Mm-hmm.
being weird, lady? And you're like,
Right.
listen, I'm trying to tell you some stuff. And they're
Now
like,
sit down.
and they're looking like, okay. And you're like, oh, you're all right with it, because these
Right.
kids are resilient. And I tell my group and my members all the time is, they don't grow up and they're not growing up in the same world that we're growing up in, where
Right.
it was a two-parent household and mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
You may have had a couple people who had single moms, but these children are growing up with two moms, two
Yeah.
dads, blended families. They're all
Mm-hmm.
growing up with several different things and they've already been exposed to it,
Right.
surrogacy, adoption. My bonus daughter, her one of her cheerleader friends is being raised by white parents, and like she's
Mm-hmm.
black, and I, asked us like, is she adopted? She's like, oh yeah, her, her mom, all of her, siblings, most of them are adopted and stuff like that. So it's not
It's
even,
already there.
it's already there. Those
Mm-hmm.
seeds of just different type of families are more prevalent now than they were
Mm-hmm.
when a lot of us were growing up. So I always talk about this, being that this is a third party reproduction. You fall underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about bonds, bond, because you did not carry this
Mm-mm.
baby, but talk about your bond with Nori. Was it difficult? And did it take you some time? How is that going?
No, our bond is very strong. Now, initially, I must say, that was my fear. Like, okay, because I did, um, like we used my sister's breast milk. Um, so I was like, oh God, like what, I'm just a little nervous. I didn't know which way to go with it. And then, she's crying. I don't, am I that, what does that feel to her? You know what I mean? So initially my sister came, like we went home for a week because I wanted to be able to just have a week with me and Reggie so we can do that.
Right,
Like, but then I told my sister, oh, you need to come down here because I need you.
right,
And it was like you have to hold her. She has to smell, like certain things. Um, but Nori knows I'm her mama, like that, like hands down. But she's more bonded with her daddy. She's a daddy's girl. But no, I didn't have. once I got over the fact that I didn't carry,
Right.
then it was smooth sailing. But initially, that was my main fear. I'm like, because everybody, my mom was like, I'm coming down. I'm like, no, nobody, I don't need nobody here. I said, I need time to be able to just be with this baby. I said, I don't know nothing about this child, and I'm taking her home. Other than being in the doctor's office. And I said, no, I need my child to know, okay, cling to me, because I feel like when you carry that baby knows, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys already have a bond because you've carried her. So she knows your voice. I'm like, oh my gosh, she knows my sister's voice. Is she gonna stop? Is my voice gonna make her stop crying? Is it gonna soothe her? Is it not gonna soothe her? Do I not say anything? Do I just hold her? Is there a certain smell? Like, like all of that. But no, she just, it was like, yeah, girl, it's me. I'm here. You all right? And I said, okay. And I was like, okay, Sheena, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you know that it's you and her. But yeah, that was my biggest fear. And if I'm gonna fail, like, that was huge. Because I was like, she only knows my sister. I mean, she hears me every now and again, but she hears my sister's voice. She's in class with her, so it's like, that was my fear. But Nori took to me like nothing. Like, it was really easy.
So I'm going to ask if anybody has any more questions before I ask Sheena my last question.
Okay.
Um, you did amazing. I can't thank you enough. You've definitely opened up a lot of eyes to your
Mm-hmm.
story. I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but people have been loving
Uh-uh.
on you and hugging on you, and they have felt this story and really just seeing. Oh, can we see the baby? I mean, she's on my page, but I don't. She's not in.
Oh, she's not in here.
She's
She's
not
with
in
her
here.
daddy in the bed. She need to be
Everyone
sleeping because she goes to school tomorrow.
My last question for you is, what would you tell the woman? Now, I know you had something very traumatic, but what would you tell the woman who has lost her uterus and her only option is IVF surrogacy? What would you tell her now that you've gone through it? What advice would you give her?
To take her time, to do it on her time, number one, and to know that there is always an option to motherhood. It may not look traditional, but what is traditional? And so I would say it's a battle, and but in the end of that battle, there's always some good, and it may take some time. And but my main thing would be, do it when you're ready. Like, it's possible. It can happen. It can happen. It just has to happen when you're ready for it to happen. So don't let people trigger you. Um, when those times when you feel like a disconnect, or you feel like you've lost your womanhood, you still got, God still left you with a uterus, well, with an ovary or two. And if He didn't want you to have, this is what I told myself every day. If He didn't want you to have any children, He would have took that too. So if He left you with something, use it, because tradition ain't tradition no more. And I said ain't, because I mean it. So for people to, always say, oh, that's not there is no right way. The right way is the way that works for you and your family. And however you got to get your family here, you do that. Because for most women, that's your missing piece. It's a part of you. I was like, when we have children, it's almost like us giving back to the world. Like, it's a way of us saying thank you to the world. So here, this is my gift back to the world. So take your time. If God left you with something, use it. So he wouldn't, if he didn't want you to have any children, he would have took that too. And that's everything I kept saying, Sheena, if he didn't want you to have no babies, he'd have took that. But now he can go ahead and take it. Now I told them they can come get it if they want it. But yeah,
I'll FedEx it to you.
okay, that's what I said. I said you can come and get it because I don't need it no more.
Next day air.
But yes, if God left you with, he it doesn't. That would be my thing. God left you with something. If he didn't want you to have a child, he'd have took everything from you.
Amen.
So just take your time and know that there is always an outcome. It's just in God's timing. And that's what I had to, it was God's timing. Because when I tried to do it myself, it didn't work. So, yes, that would be it.
I want to thank you for
You're
sharing with
welcome.
me, for being so open, being so
Mm-hmm.
transparent. I know it was.